But insects, I think, have an advantage. Insects and other arthropods. Oh yeah, the dam. I heard there was some buffalo having a tiff, but it looks like they might have settled it. I'm seeing a lot of relaxed buffalo. Now the lines that you have in the flower actually come out very, very bright under whether you're looking at it through infrared or ultraviolet, depending on what kind of animal you are. And that guides the animal to the center of the flower. Well, not much here. I wonder if we head back, being hot, head back to the west and maybe the north. See if we can find any of those, the family we saw this morning, also see what else might be up. A little harsh heading into the sun, to the west. We had a very lovely morning. In fact, we had a fantastic morning. Couldn't have been better. We spent a lot of time with her, and then to leave them because they were crossing through an area that was getting quite dense. We came on to the area known as Quarantine, and what did I do with my other eyes? I'm sitting on them. Anyways, we came around to try and meet up with them in the direction they were moving, and then of course we found a big bull that distracted us a little bit, and he ended up going back towards them, so we sat with them until the end of drive, which was really rather special. I'd like to try and get to where they were last seen. They were last seen as we left them this morning, feeding on a marula tree. These very bright today. But the idea is to head west so that we can spend a lot of time this afternoon coming back east with the sun behind us. With this kind of light, with a little bit of cloud in the eastern sky, it's great for photography. It's really a way to capture summer life, because throughout most of the day with the sun up ahead, you get more shadow on the trees, maybe even just like this caper bush. I think it's a caper bush on the termite mound. It doesn't really have character until you see things with the sun behind us, and as the sun goes down, hopefully that light will improve. I want to head west. Tempted to go to Treehouse Dam already. Might be an idea. Hello, dragonfly. But then that's not following up on those ellies. The problem is it's been hot. They would have needed mud and water. Possible that there was enough in the drainage line, mud wires. And come in from the Zoe's Road side, from the other side of that pushed over marula tree. This is the open area of Quarantine on both sides of us. This road that we're on sort of bisects it. And It's a wonderful mixture of herbs, forbs and grasses. One of the dominant grasses that's flowering at the moment that gives it a little bit of a pink tinge when we look into the sun. It's known as the herringbone grass. And a big living marula tree and another dead marula tree. It's almost as though they're farming. They need those marulas to die and feed the soil so that all the other young trees underneath them can grow up. And if big marulas are not performing much of a function anymore, they're no good to anybody. So it actually is, it benefits all the animals. It benefits the entire ecosystem when elephants do this to trees, because they know better. They know far better than we do about how to manage the forests, the succession of trees. They've been doing it for thousands of generations. We're still new to the science of ecology and dendrology and wildlife management. Like it needs managing, but unfortunately it does. So just have a look, another marula tree right next to me. In some places what is happening is landowners are actually starting to protect their marula trees. It'd be very interesting to see how that has any effect on the overall subgrowth, the growth that takes place. Now this is very, very recent. This marula tree was probably barked. I know we're looking into the sun and we'll be probably seeing it a lot during our dryers for the next couple of weeks, but recently ring barked. It still has been able to produce leaves. Let's have a look from the other side. We'll turn around and have a look at the other side. I got a photo of Stick's young male lying on that termite mound when he was a cub. So the amount of moisture and the amount of nutrients that were already being produced by the tree and being sent up through the bark to the crown already allowed this tree to start coming into leaf, but this is a marula tree in the last throes of death. It's clinging on to life, but the only life that it has is the moisture and the nutrients that it has stored in its branches and its bark. But it's going to use that up very quickly, and it hasn't been able to. In fact, it's looking very, very sick. The leaves are yellowish, there's a nitrogen deficiency, there are probably a bunch of deficiencies. And it would be nice to develop a sort of a gel or something that you can wrap around a trunk to allow the transfer of moisture and nutrients, but it's interfering. It's as much interfering as it is helping an injured animal that needs to go through its own healing process. Because everything has a reason, and everything that is happening is necessary. Just to the right of this dying marula tree is another marula tree, maybe a little bit younger, and that marula tree is actually going to benefit because it's going to get a lot of nutrients out of the dead wood of this old one that is going to be collapsing. And that'll feed the soil to feed the next generation of marula tree. And maybe elephants are just, because they're being so confined, even though we're in millions of acres, the fact that they are still limited because there's human habitation on all of their boundaries, they feel a need to be a little bit more intensive in their farming practices by feeding the trees the only way they know how. A tree of that size is not really feeding anything, and if it's a male marula tree, there are other males around here to pollinate the females, so maybe it's one of the best things that could happen, to put dead wood on the ground and to feed the soil and the termites and provide shelter for so many creatures, dozens of little food chains that will build up in the the branches of a fallen tree. The branches give protection to so many new trees and so what comes out of a dead tree that was feeding very little other than the creatures that lived in its crown, come a whole lot of trees and different. And here's a perfect example. There's a little jackalberry. There's a little tree community here, a couple of little jackalberries and a couple of buffalo thorns, and that could have only come out of a dead tree many years ago, where things like baboon and birds and all sorts of things sat on dead trunks and dropped their droppings over time, so that eventually the ones that should come up are actually the fruiting trees, the ones that the primates and the birds eat. They need to eat them so that they can drop them in places that are protected, so they don't get trampled, they don't get eaten. A wonderful cycle of what could we call it? Mutual need. Everything needs something else to live. It's not so much that but everything needs something else to make sure it can survive in its niche or its environment. And if things are not adaptable, they don't become viable species. And it's rapid changes in climate that are speeding. That is changes in climate. That is speeding up the process. I'm not going to look for tracks from that family of ellies. I'm just curious as to where they might have gone. Didn't see much heading that way. They might have opted for the big dam on Buffalo's Hook, or no dam at all. There's also the other thing that the need to get to water isn't as strong as it is in the dry season. There's a lot of moisture in what they're eating. Especially taking advantage of that marula yesterday. I mean this morning. It was yesterday for some. I'm most intrigued about the marula tree that they were feeding on. Now I apologize for those of you there must be some of you that weren't with us this morning, so just to fill you in, we'd been following this group of elephants and we ended up at the end of the drive. We found them again and they were eating a marula tree that had been pushed over by maybe a big bull yesterday. And a lot of the fruit hadn't ripened yet, but they weren't really interested in the fruit. It was a great lesson and a great sort of side dish, I guess, for the youngsters. Good to chew on, it helps, and for the whole dental thing it must help a lot because it's roughage, it's mostly branches and twigs that they want to eat or chew on, and the bark. And they don't get an opportunity to do that very often because of the nature of the way the marula trees grow. And if we can look at a couple of small ones just before we get to that one. The marula tree doesn't really have that many low down branches, and it takes a very tall elephant to actually be able to stretch up and pull down some of the higher branches, and that's because they are such an important part of the diet. And it's because they're so much a part of the diet of elephant that elephant are not going to unnecessarily destroy one of their most vital food sources, especially in the winter. And well, as far as roughage is, occasionally there's a whole bunch of them. There's probably no reason why there had to be two growing together, so maybe an elephant decided to let that one actually grow, and this one, who knows, could have been an accident. But when we first came here this morning, there was no way to get through here. I mean, this was blocked by the tree, and slowly this herd of elephant this morning were actually breaking this down. The calves were getting a chance to feed on small branches and twigs and even leaves and fresh green fruits, which is a very rare thing for little ones. It's almost like, I guess, it's like ice cream, it must be. Where the cows are able to reach branches, they will pull them down for the calves, and every now and then a cow might actually push over a small marula. But invariably you'll find quite aggressive feeding on marulas that have been pushed over and where they can get all the branches. For some reason they left a lot behind. Maybe it was getting hot, maybe it was time to move on. But just wanted to mention that, you see, it's not really destruction. It's regeneration. It's maybe manipulating the cycle, but it is the cycle of life. It is what life is. What's interesting about this, and the marula tree that was pushed over has been partially barked, and I'd say probably more than 50%, the entire side of it has been barked in the past, but a very long time ago. There's been some recent feeding on some recovered bark, but the other tree hasn't been barked. So the other tree, although it's looking a bit lopsided, has actually got a greater chance of survival. This tree, with it being barked before, can be sacrificed, because by exposing the inner core of the tree like that, by being barked, there are a host of wood-boring beetles that live inside the trunks of marulas, sometimes for decades, and they weaken the structure of the tree. So maybe the tree was doomed anyway. Why not break it down as a gift to the family group? Maybe it was a bull that said, "Here, ladies," and then when we found them again, he came by to sort of say, "There's your marula tree. I pushed a tree for you." It's like giving a lady a bunch of flowers. You and the kids have fun. Go at it. And I know it wasn't a female, or it wasn't a cow that pushed over that tree, because it hadn't been fed on in that manner when we found it this morning. In fact, the bull had hardly touched the tree. Interesting. Lava-eaten core of this big branch. No wonder it fell down. Must have been a storm, with the weight of leaves starting to grow. You can see the reddish wood on the top right, that tiny little bit of reddish wood with the little edge coming down. Even in there was...
Yeah, this was an ellie that popped it.
Was it?
Yeah. Me and Scott were just behind it, I think.
Okay. I can see a tusk mark. I can see a couple of tusk marks. Well, it couldn't have taken much, because it is so dead. So he probably did that so that it wouldn't fall on another elephant. And look at the size. It's unbelievable that less than 6 inches of wood up there was holding the weight of this. But that's what happens when the bark is taken off and the xylem gets exposed and the borers get into it. Interestingly, that entire chunk of wood had no dead wood in it. Let me go back, I'll show you even. You can see through the core of the branch that had to be cut with a chainsaw, probably to help move it out of the way. But there is virtually not a trace of wood borer in that disc, except for the top left corner, which would have been one of the big, maybe giant longhorn beetle larvae, which can probably be in there for 20 years before it becomes a beetle. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some jewel beetles and longhorn beetles in there that in anywhere from now until 2030 or 2035 might actually emerge. Unfortunately, the wood won't last that long. It's not very hard marula. It decomposes over a period of only a few years, 5 or 6 years, depending on the rainfall. Sorry to ramble on trees, but I thought you might like to know a little bit about life cycles of marulas and elephants and how integral each one is to the other's existence. A lot of herringbone grass up here on the sandier soils. Sharon. Hello Sharon in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Pirate country. Hello Sharon. Sharon's saying elephants. Is it not true that elephants walk on tiptoe? And that's why they can walk silently, tiptoe with calluses. Yes, that's true, Sharon. In fact, almost everything walks on the tiptoes. Even the hooved animals. And the tip of their toe is where the nail has actually grown and curved around the tip of the toe to form a hoof. And the reason why it's a two-hoofed animal is because they are two toes and they each have a toenail with the membrane of skin, very much like the skin between your dog's feet or your cat's toes. But elephants essentially have quite unique feet in that, yes, they are pointed downwards. It's almost like as I'm holding my hand now. Although there are 5 toes, they don't manifest out on the external side of the foot as toenails, the way we have nails, because sometimes the nails are vestigial. So sometimes you'll get 3 or 4 or 5. It doesn't really have a very set number, as far as I'm aware, because toenails will come and go. But they are external toenails and they're not as connected to the fingers as they are for us. And they're not only calluses and big, well, the calluses pretty much like underneath my feet. There are a bunch of muscles. It's the muscle mass that they have around their fingers that has developed to be able to manipulate the weight on different portions of the foot, even in the center of the foot, to be able to almost hold the center of the foot up so that it could virtually stand on an egg and not break it. And that is how they cushion sound. It's because and how they can be so silent is when they put their feet down, they cushion the sound by almost like a concave area of the foot that slowly exerts pressure on whatever surface they're walking on. But it's not always like that. I mean, most of the time elephants are walking and they're actually dragging their feet. And I sometimes lie in my bed at night, the many nights that I sometimes am awake 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I hear elephants walking by, because you can hear the sort of soft shuffle. It's almost like giant slippers as their feet hit the ground and almost slide into position, and then pressure goes onto it. I think it's only really at times when they're really trying to be quiet, trying to evade something, or trying to not make a noise so they're not detected, that they'll employ that sort of technique of being able to very gently cushion any sound with the muscles in their toes or under their feet. Raisa in Finland, sunny Finland. How are you doing today, Raisa? You're probably almost on the same time zone. There's a pygmy kingfisher. Just flew past my face. Flew in here. I don't know if we're going to see it. It's flying fast and furious. Raisa had a very interesting question, and it sort of relates to the Ellie's breaking branches. Another dead marula, by the way. Breaking branches, when they break a big branch that then falls down, is the plant still able to release tannins the way they do as a living, and still able to produce it from the roots? To some extent no, but I think to some extent yes. Not a great answer to that question, but I only have to think about how it works with vegetables that we eat, and you can probably make a comparison. There goes a woodlands kingfisher. There was a pygmy here, definitely, and one day we'll find, in fact it might have just flown in past this woodlands. We'll stop for the woodlands for a really, child? You have to fly away? Something little flew in here, but it's not there anymore. Okay, well, how close can you get to the little purple stars down here? Find some in sunlight. There's a little carpet of, I'm not sure what, another flower that I have to find. Probably not easy to see because they are quite small, but they're almost lilac. Maybe there's some. I'm going to roll forward. They're more in the sunlight just up ahead. Not sure what they are. Absolutely gorgeous. So, we're off. We've got all of this to go and explore. All of this ahead of us. And for now, well, I didn't find any of their tracks. So I don't know where they went. So we're going to go and find something else. Bunting. Kathy in Florida. Oh, that's a wax bull. It'd be nice if you could catch a wax bull on camera. Hello Kathy in Florida. And goodbye little wax bull. I'll try and catch you again. I have them on my bird bath, and they let me sit right next to them. Another little, very beautiful little purple flower that's a little different to the star. We're going to do tiny little flowers today, because it's time we saw them. It's not going to be around long if it gets too hot. As long as I can find a little bit of a carpet of them. And not much further on, wish I could see that, are little bells that are like a little white lobelia type of thing. And I remember we saw them in Thorny Bush last year. Same flower that I still can't find. I thought it's like a lobelia. Looks like a lobelia. So, less than 10 meters, 3 different species of flower. There's another one, but we'll get to them. Some of them are so small, somehow I'd have to get the camera right next to them. But they don't quite come out unless they're in little prolific patches. That's how we learn. Trichocereus is all folded up already. Here's a branch that has been pulled down by an elephant, and it's exposing wood that is at the moment ideal for beetles to lay their eggs and for their tiny little larvae to start burrowing into the tree. And this is how it begins, really. A healthy marula gets one big branch torn down, and it'll eventually lead to just a single trunk. That entire left branch will be gone in a few years. and it'll help the marula tree actually grow a lot taller. There's some trees that physically cut off the nutrients to lower branches so that they can put new or I suppose propel or send the nutrients and the moisture into the crown where it's needed more. The lower part of the tree is in shade and it's time to shed it. Okay, sorry, I'm Sandy in New York, yeah? Sandy in New York wanted to know if I found the species for the foxglove. Now we had quite an extensive discussion about the foxglove and the species and the families of trees of flowers that they belong to. Digitalis is your foxglove. Our foxglove is different. It belongs to a completely different family. Hello, Impala. There's a lily that's been pulled out of the ground. I'm dying to collect. Do I interfere? See you, boys. Bachelor boys. What up? Why are you nervous? It's like they're nervous about something. Hello, boys. You two must have grown up together. Probably been best mates since you were little lambs in the nursery. That's how you can stand so close to each other. One day you're going to have to lock horns. They are a little nervous, they're a little bit sensitive. Let's see if there is anything moving around. Don't think so. Maybe it's just because we're here. Got him. If I'm not mistaken, there was an orchid down here. Yes, I remember now. Here it is. The tree orchid. Completely forgot about this one. Sadly not flowering. I think it's this one. This one looks a little bit young. Part of it is old, the top part with the bigger leaves. Sorry, I'll switch off. Sadly no flowers, not like the one that's on Weaver's Nest. I'm not sure if that's the original one. That might be an offspring that's developed over the last few years. Be interesting. I need to find out because it's something that's not too familiar about that. Was it this knobthorn 4 years ago? 5 years ago. It wasn't this one. Well, maybe it was that tree. I can't really remember. But it just suddenly occurred to me there was once an orchid down here, and then I suddenly saw that one. It might have been that one. Maybe a piece of it broke off over time. Maybe there is even an old photograph somewhere. Oops. Kahumas are on Second Rock. Oh, there's a still open in the sunlight. Some of them are still closing. The lion's eye or the roadside pimpernel. In the harsh sun they tend to close up. They're closed in the morning, they only open up late morning, early afternoon, and then they start closing up again. Beautiful orange. That would match my kitchen.
I don't know where you are.
The orange.
Oh, there.
Oh, you didn't get them. Sorry, I thought you were on them.
No, I didn't know where
The
you were.
consequence of not having a monitor. Oh, sorry, Brian. Well, fortunately we see quite a few of them. And unfortunately though, I haven't really been showing them to you. Don't know if Scott might have got for one. But they're quite a stark flower in the pretty much or predominantly green background that we have. The white kind of gets a bit hidden. Or overlooked, not really hidden. But just a short while ago you would have noticed that there was a predominance of yellow flowers, and now there are quite a few blue to purple to sort of lilac kind of flowers. I haven't seen another one or two that are... Oh, look at this marula that's just been pushed. Wow, this is also a recent, very recent. There's something, and I think it is probably the roughage they need. Don't know, for whatever reason it is that they are compelled to be eating marula branches at the moment. There's another marula that is fallen to the ground. This one won't survive, the other one might. If they're just pushed over and there's still some roots that are able to survive. Interestingly, hang on a second, there's been a little bit of feeding, but it doesn't look like there's been much. A lot of lichen on this tree. This tree must have been quite old. It looks like a slightly different. I just heard a snort from those impala we were with. I'm going to turn around and listen. Go closer and listen. Interesting marula this. Hello Ryan. In Utah, are there any overweight animals in nature? No, we don't have preservatives and processed food, and everything in nature eats nature, so overweight doesn't exist, can't exist. You know how you hear about the balance of nature? Well, there's no such thing as a balance of nature, but there's certainly a balance of energy. That if you're overweight, it slows you down. So either you don't eat or you get eaten. If you prey, you get eaten, and if you're a predator, you can't run so fast, so you just don't catch anything. Simple rule of it is not in an animal's best interest be overweight. And so the gene for obesity probably is so suppressed in every species, in every population of every species. Now, I might even be considered obese because it only takes 10 kilograms over your normal body weight, and then of course it also depends on muscle mass and percentage body fat and things, but I think even I could be considered obese because I've got such an investment in my midsection. The impala are all actually just feeding. Might have been a false alarm. This is what's interesting about this marula that's just been pushed over, is that it's rather stunted. There seem to be a lot more leaflets. Tastes like marula. But it seems to be just a lot more condensed. I need to find a place to turn around. We don't want to go back to Treehouse Dam. Impala move deeper in. But this is a fairly good time for some hunting. That is where the orchid was. Now I remember. Okay, because now we're facing the other way. Let me show you something from a little while ago. This is the new orchid, the orchid that I was looking at, and I was thinking, no ways that orchid is older than a couple of years, because the bark is still lifting from this knobthorn after it was ring-barked by elephants. This knobthorn, I can't remember if it was alive or if it had been ring-barked already. I'm thinking age-wise it's probably been ring-barked for a while now. But up here in the fork is where the old orchid was, and I'm seeing grasses growing up there, not tree orchid. So this tree orchid died and somehow managed to reproduce before it grew that new one in the next tree. But this is exactly where when we turn around, we're going to actually see the old stems and the old roots. I don't know if you remember, folks, but we have two subspecies of tree orchids here. It's the only orchids that I thought occurred here until of course I found an orchid at home. that I still can't find out what it is. But that's a ground orchid, this is a tree orchid. And the one that we have on Weaver's Nest, if I remember correctly, is the tiger orchid, and this one is the leopard orchid. This is the, one is Nilotica and one is Gigantea. This one I think was the Nilotica. Ancelia gigantea Nilotica and Ancelia gigantea. So now that we're facing it, I want to remind some of you, because there will be some that are interested, and some of you will remember that. Now I need this, because I'm sure I've got a photograph of that. I don't know if that's orchid growing, but I think that's grass growing. And binoculars. Yep, that's the grass. And the orchid has died for whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe killed by the grass, can't be. Not sure which grass that is though. So if you remember being here, this was the orchid that had dark spots on it. And fortunately it managed to produce another one, which is what I found earlier, and that's why I didn't quite recognize that one. But it's in a beautiful place. It's just an incredible. Well, in terms of late afternoon sunlight, it would be amazing to film or to capture later on in the year when it's got flowers. Seems to be a botany drive this afternoon until we find some zoology to discuss. Although Genevieve in New York might have something to say. I didn't do my homework, my dog ate it. Because I forgot the question. Because I forgot to. Because I was sick. Because I left my book at school. And all the other excuses that come along with not doing my homework. I didn't do my homework, Genevieve, I'm sorry. But we'll do it together this afternoon. It's dried out somewhat. This is a tiny chunk of it. Funny enough, this is a mushroom. Genevieve is referring to a huge mushroom that we found, the elephant, the big elephant bull. He was feeding at the base of a marula tree, and well, I'm pretty sure this is a mushroom that is probably specific to the base of maybe marula trees and maybe some others similar trees of similar densities. And I'm sure we'll maybe find some. Maybe I need to look under some of these marula trees and find them. It didn't occur to me, it's just occurred to me now. I don't know why it didn't. Well, let's try that. Let's have a look under one of these trees and see if, although we need to be maybe on quarantine to do that. Giant mushroom that just, I don't know how mushrooms grow the way they do, that they can just envelop objects that live around them and that become embedded in the mushroom. In this particular, I think it was this piece, might have been another piece. There's been other elephants that crossed here. Another family group moving in the same direction as the one we were with. But this was a giant mushroom, and in the photographs that came out after the whole thing, which was exactly what I was looking for. I was so glad. For those of you, thanks for posting those photographs. There was sort of a photograph of the elephant at the marula tree, and then there was a photograph of me at the marula tree to give a comparison of size. And I barely reached the bottom of his right tusk. I mean, where his at rest, when his head was just in a normal position, where his tusk just stood, I barely reached under the bottom of his right tusk, which was about level with where his armpit meets his chest, or where his anyways, you can see that on Facebook if you have Facebook. Otherwise I'll have to try and put that photograph some other way. But it was exactly what I was looking for, because he was a really, really big elephant. And the only way to try and get an idea of scale was to leave the vehicle, to leave it standing, and then as soon as he moved off, to be able to stand. And I was standing where he picked up this mushroom, and I was standing where he had flattened the zinnias and the grasses underneath the tree. And the strange thing is that I think some people managed to have a look at the size of my head and my hat compared to the size of the mushroom that he actually picked up, and I think the mushroom was actually bigger than my head. But I think, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to come down to Treehouse Dam, and I hope there's going to be something here in the water that I can show you while I quickly page through my fungus book, my mushroom book. And let's find an answer to that right now. So, buffalo. That's buffalo. Solitary man. Weaver's busy. House Dam. Don't know how I'll even start looking for the mushroom. Species occurring on compost. Species occurring herbivore dung. Species occurring on or around termite nests. Species occurring on living trees. The greatest group of all. Species occurring on dead wood. You can ask me about it later. It's vital that my fungus does that. Huge hosts of species occurring under pine trees, under broadleaf trees, under pine trees, broadleaf. That's just the species accounts. We need to go through a key and species on open ground. So let's try this key. Umbrella shaped cap and central stripe? No. Fruit body is more or less globose, egg shaped or pear shaped? Yes, without a stripe. So we'll go to 20. Medium to large, more or less globose to top shaped, regularly lumpy, occurring under eucalyptus and black wattle, or that doesn't give me many options. Arathusa tinctorius, number 149. We've got weaver nests and frog nests. Brian?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not that. I don't even know where to begin to look for this big giant mushroom. Oh, goody, 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 thanks. We heard of Ellie's at Djuma Dam. Guess where we're going? Okay, I'm just flipping through my mushroom book. I'm sorry that I'm letting you sit quietly here at the dam for the moment. I thought it might pop out at me, but you know, mushrooms are so difficult, and unless I really had a good... I know it doesn't have the normal composition of the average mushroom. I'll Google it later. They're talking about big mushrooms. Liam is saying that there are Ellies at Djuma Dam, so let's go and have a look. We've been talking about Ellies and marulas and the coexistence that they have and the need for each other, and we've been spending an afternoon looking at marula trees and how they're affected and how their lives are affected by elephants. So why not let's go and have a look at elephants, and maybe we'll get to see how their lives interact with the marula trees around them, if they do anything, if we can get to see them. Ooh. A very interesting question from James. Mr. Bear, very nice to hear from you, Squire. James has been part of Wild Earth also, one of our viewers for quite a long time. How are you doing, James? But quite a wonderful question, because it can lead to quite a big discussion. And the question is all about genetically modified foods and genetically modified crops, and what my thoughts are on GM anything. So the fact that it is GM, the fact that it is genetically modified. What was that wood? I'm not expecting tortoises this afternoon. In any case, I'm trying to watch the road. I look up ahead and I look at you, because I've got to talk to you. James, nice to hear from you. But a great question. Because one of the greatest indictments, one of the greatest, wouldn't like to call it statement, but one thing that happened recently that should shut the subject up completely are the millions and millions of bees that were killed recently as a result of GM crops. Maize, as far as I'm aware, being planted somewhere in the world, I'm not going to mention where. But millions and millions of bees. Now, I have to mention that bees and humans have to have some sort of understanding. No, that's wrong. I think, let me rephrase that. I think as far as we humans are concerned, if we don't have bees with the kind of farming and agriculture that we engage in, with the large scale farming and agriculture, if we don't have bees, nothing gets pollinated. Anyway, so it's gonna, while we're doing orchids as well, it's a lovely late afternoon view of the other orchid, the giant tree orchid that we have here on Djuma. There are a number of others, but this one is also quite a prominent one in this old dead leadwood. It might even, is that a flower off to the left? It was flowering a couple of weeks ago. No. They look like maybe the open pods, or could be the remnants of old flowers. Anyway, That's how I get distracted. I love talking to you. I love trying to give you a piece of my mind and what I think about nature and how I interpret it. And you've got to just understand that I'm doing it while I'm driving around, and while I'm driving around I get distracted. Sometimes it needs some help to get back to the subject at hand, but this time I think I've got it. James, the question was how I feel about genetically modified foods, crops. Well, I guess in a way I'm on the fence. I understand the direction that research went, because I know how a fungus or something can affect an entire crop, and well, it can affect the entire food production, or rather the food production of certain regions, and of course that has its impact on the population. So I can understand the reason behind it. I can understand the need to maybe develop a type of plant that is resistant to certain things, and it's maybe not the mutant that everybody thinks it is, that the plant is not really that much altered, other than there is maybe a splicing of a gene or the addition of, there's just, it's exactly what it says, it's genetically modified. So there's a manipulation of the gene. Now I have to also tell you that nature manipulates genes all the time. It's the very reason why we have everything. It's the very reason why species are so successful. It's the mutation of genes that help a particular species adapt climatic change to become a viable species in the first place. So it's not like nature is a stranger to genetic manipulation, because it manipulates the genetic of everything already. However, as humans, we're able to sort of map things, and we're able to aim it in a particular direction that nature wouldn't ordinarily get to, short of a few million years, or 1,000 or 100. But the very fact that we are manipulating it in a speeded up form, we're not allowing everything that depends on those plants to adapt to those changes, because those changes can be vital to their existence. Be it a tiny change in the shape or the size or the pollination of the flower, the tiniest manipulation can determine whether an entire species can adapt to that or not. And if it happens all over extensive periods of time, you will always find that the populations of animals and plants that are connected to one another manage to adapt together. And I think I might be totally misinformed, but if I could just, I've been asked my opinion, and this is it. It's not the opinion of anybody else's, it's purely mine. And that is that in theory there's nothing really wrong with it, because nature does it. But the fact that it is done, and it creates such a sharp shift in the genetic of a plant, that everything that is associated with that plant can no longer survive off or with. And so we're manipulating some species out of existence, perhaps by the creation of the very things that help us to produce the things that we want. You know, how are you going to get beans if you don't have bees pollinating the bean flowers? How are you going to get fruits, apricots, peaches, pears, any fruit that you can think of? The one insect that is most responsible for all of that are the bees. Sure, there are wasps and birds, and there are a bunch of other things that help. But I think the variety of bees, and in particular the honeybee, nothing else does a better job. We can't afford to be losing millions and millions of bees for the sake of growing a few crops. Why can't we just grow normal crops and deal with whatever genetic deficiency there is in that crop, and deal with the fungus or the rot or the way our ancestors did? Hello boys, change the subject for me please, thank you. Whistling ducks, look, there are 2 whistling ducks. This time I'm not going to chase them away. Can you see the 2 ducks?
Mm-hmm.
pretty hard to miss them. Like bookends. Simon and Garfunkel. Add this one to that one when that one's finished, and then the ice will keep it cold. So we have to keep hydrated out here. The best way to do that is keep a bottle of water in the freezer. There's nothing worse than warm water on a hot day. That might melt the ice pretty quickly. So those are white-faced whistling ducks. We spoke about them a little while ago, and somebody asked me if they really do whistle. I wish they would now. Let's go up onto the western side of the dam. Otherwise we're looking into the sun. Oh, there's a warthog with her here. There's a warthog with her children. Let's stay here and try and watch them for a little bit. For some reason they're very, very shy here.
This is the mother that had the 3.
She had 3 and now there's only 2. Yeah, you can see she's also very wary. As soon as she goes behind the bush, we're going to move around to the western side. There are some impala there. I'm not too disturbed by her. Go all the way up to the other junction. Black cuckoo. We're going to sit here in the shade, and Mama Warthog's going to maybe come out into the open with the impala and buffalo behind her. That's a pretty girl. Sorry to catch you in the act there. Really unintentional. It's been a long time. Look, you can even see the white-faced ducks behind her. Children to come out. There we go. Little piglet. We spend so little time with warthog. I think it'd be nice to just spend a little bit of time with them. We've got impala, got a bachelor group of impala here too, with an old boys club of buffalo. Suckling time. I wouldn't even dare starting the car now because it will disturb us. Oh, she's done it before I could even think of it. She got tired of the suckling, so she's gone to feeding. Now I can start up. We can change position a little bit. And we might be lucky to go down to the dam and watch the mud, have a mud bath. She's not a youngster, this Warty. Brian, did you hear that question from Debbie?
I did.
Well, I can't answer it, you have to answer it.
What camera do I use?
Yes.
I've got a baby Canon, a Canon 60D.
No, I think Debbie's asking about this camera.
Not this camera.
Oh, or
personal camera.
Your personal camera.
Who knows now?
What about both of them? What's your work camera?
Work camera is a fancy Sony. I don't even know what it is. XT-Cam.
Yeah, that's probably one of the fanciest cameras we've ever used here at WildEarth. So what was your personal camera?
A Canon, I think it's actually a 600D, entry-level Canon.
Okay, yeah, I want to try and get one of those. Well, you're a very good photographer.
Oh, thank you.
Filmographer, photographer. What up, Wood? We'll have to let her come across the road and head west. That's what she wants to do, which is probably heading back to her den, her burrow. Little piglets in tow going through the long grasses. Walking, obviously, they don't need to raise their tail. It's only when they're running that they raise their tail. She's a very good mom. She might have even told them to stop and wait, and now she's given them the all clear to continue. Unfortunately, the road's a bit bumpy, so make it a bit shaky, trying to keep them in focus and follow them while we're trying to keep them in sight. But off they go, they're now trotting off. Bye bye, children. Thank you. It was lovely. It's like when we had those giraffe a couple of weeks ago, that family of giraffe that just allowed us to spend time with them. Kind of the same thing. It doesn't always happen. It's not always easy to have them so relaxed. A number of species are a little bit shy around the vehicles, and warthog just happens to be one of them. Somebody asked me about a living leadwood yesterday, day before yesterday. There's living leadwood straight ahead of us, but a very young one. That's probably about 150, maybe a bit more, 200 years old. Very, very young leadwood. I think what we should do, since we've been talking about trees today, move on to another tree, the leadwood. We'll take a drive into the riparian vegetation that towers above and designed for leopards. What should I have for our viewers who've been watching the Djuma waterhole camera this afternoon, probably around 1 or 2 o'clock our time, just after lunch our time? There was a bird that was calling that I have never seen on the property, and I was blown away by hearing it. So, or hearing it or seeing it before, I might be wrong. And this is a question for the birders, the people that, those of you out there who've followed us, and not necessarily birders, just people who like birds. And part of this exercise is getting you to like birds, because they are here in Africa, the colours, the lives, the varieties, they're probably over, be close to maybe the over is, and at times throughout the National Park there are over 500 quarter cougar. However, there are birds that are endemic to certain regions of cougar. So here in the I think up to about 350 species of birds. It's chubby. While I was and
Hello everyone. Being out in the bush and being out there live has its technical challenges. We're experiencing some of that now and are working on it as fast as possible to get it sorted and get you back in the vehicle with us.
well, in the middle of talking to you, I guess we've had a little bit of a signal problem, but hopefully you'll stay with us. I don't know where I lost you, and what I was talking about when you didn't. Sorry. But, yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry, repeat that please. Welcome back everyone. Thank you. Seem to have some problems with signal and stuff. These are all leadwoods. Now that we're down in the riverbed, in fact we can look down this riverbed and we can count a bunch of them, and how different it is to some extent if signal's really good. But I can't see where the camera, but if we go from the right, almost all of these really tall trees are all leadwoods, and once you start getting a feel for what a leadwood looks like, the shape, the gin, the whole shape of the tree, you can pick out the leadwoods because they're all sort of the same shade, the same color. I wish this was working because then I could point out like the bush willow below the leadwood, that far leadwood. And these are ancient leadwoods. I mean, these leadwoods are hundreds and hundreds of years old down here in the riverbed. And leadwoods always need to have their feet in water. So wherever you find a leadwood, you know that the groundwater or the water table isn't too far below the surface, that there's some fissure that the leadwood is able to tap into. So all the way down this drainage line we're going to be finding some wonderful leadwoods that have been here sometimes, I would imagine even up to 1,000 years or more. Very distinctive bark pattern of the leadwood. It's almost like a crocodile's back. This one, a lot of lower branches that are sort of hiding it, so it's not as sun bleached as some of the trees can be, but generally, and we'll find that further on, I'll find you one, we'll see how bleached the lower trunk can be, and it lends itself to the Zulu name of the leadwood, which is Mapondon Dlov. And Mapondon Dlov means tusks of the elephant, or the horn of the elephant, if I'm not mistaken. If there's any Zulu speaking person out there that can verify that. This is a massive leadwood. This is probably one of the biggest leadwoods. Maybe we can go back a little bit. Probably one of the biggest leadwoods we'll find around here. Next to, of course, a big marula. Not too many marulas down here. Generally a little bit too wet for them. But that leadwood at the base is probably a good 6 feet or more in diameter. Huge leadwood. And most of it's still alive, which is even more incredible. Perhaps one of the densest hardwoods you will come across. Look at the luri, lovely picture that. Go-away bird. And I'm stopping to see if I can hear one of its cousins that was calling today. That's a hint to the question I asked earlier, that around 1 or 2 o'clock our afternoon time on Gowrie Dam, Djuma waterhole camera, there would have been a bird calling that if you were a birder you would have heard it and your ears would have pricked up. Because it's a bird that I don't think I'd ever seen here in my years before here at Djuma. Although I've listened for them. Cousin of this, the grey luri, or the go-away bird. Bye-bye. Oh, there's a raptor. That's why it flew into a tree. It flew into a... Interesting how it flew into a buffalo thorn as a raptor flew over, and I can hear the alarm calls going as the raptor flies on. Take me on the road south, I think. Past the mud wallows. been here for a while. Questions at WildEarthTV, and if you want to, you can tweet. It's like that little bird that is tweeting now. But yeah, tweet a question, or I don't know, is that how you say it? Tweet a question. Send a tweet. Hashtag Safari Live, whatever it is, however you say it, but that's where it is on Twitter. Hashtag Safari Live, and Djuma will pick it up, and I can answer any of your queries live, right now. Even if you just want to say hello, or if there's anybody that I know who wants to say hi, blast from the past. Oh, hello boys. Don't often find anybody in this little mud wallow, but you're not shy, are you? Looks like we kind of interrupted something. Were you? He's still leaking. I guess buffalo have got big bladders. They might have quite a reputation, these old bulls, but generally they just want to be left alone. They just want to be left in peace to lie in the mud all day. That's a really old man, that one that's sort of moved out of the water. Or if he's not old, he's not in great condition. You can see how sunken his hips are. It almost looks like he's finding it difficult to walk in a way. But yeah, he looks like an old man. Is he the one that's got no sight in his eye? Might be, I don't know. Extremely muscular forequarters, his shoulders. Of course, that's where all the muscle is to carry not only the weight of the head, but to propel most of the body. Isn't really that much weight hanging over the rump, so the hips and the muscles around the hips are the first to sort of start fading. Old man buffalo. And these two boys are looking pretty healthy. These two are still lying in the pond. With their wigs, their judges' wigs. Bye bye, boys. Boys and birds. Boys and their birds. Their oxpeckers. Why are the ticks on elephants white? Joel. It's just the species. It's a very specific species of tick that is able to burrow into elephant skin. It's like you get very species specific ticks that live on tortoises and other animals. I don't know why they're white. I guess there might be a reason why they're white. I guess it has something to do with the fact if they were dark and they were big, that they would absorb a little bit of heat and they might burst if they were black. I don't know. I'm just thinking that we, as a means to conserve heat and moisture, they need to reflect the heat. We'd have to think about that one. But the kind of questions that are the very reason for living, you know, it's kind of things that you see in nature and you think, if you have the temerity, if you have the insight to ask why something is that drives trying to find an answer, because nature, after all, provided answers if you observe it for long enough. And it's not really answers in books. And books can give you guidelines, and books can give you names, and books can give you theory, but actually what happens in the field is different. I can certainly look up what species of tick it is, and I identify. I don't know. Personally, I don't know what it is. I don't know the species name. I guess I'll get to that at some point, but it hasn't been. It's not like I'm compelled to find out what the tick is, although I should. There's no reason why I shouldn't. I should find out based on the fact that I like to find answers, and if I find a flower I want to know what name it is or what its name is. Big white tick only by and trying to observe them, get an understanding, trying to understand why they're white. The question myself. Maybe we'll never know. Some things you don't always have to know the answers to. You have to accept that's the way they are. Until maybe one day you get an epiphany, or you get you observe something that connects the dots. Okay, that's not likely to happen with why a tick is white, but in certain other things, especially with animal behavior and certain other things about, well, many other aspects of nature, whether it's related to plants or animals, there is always going to be that pivotal moment when you've been asking a similar type of question And by observing it for long enough, suddenly you're actually rewarded with the answer that you won't really find in a book or Wikipedia or Google, because the only way to find the answer is actually to observe it, to spend time with it, to understand it, and to a large extent actually just to use logical deduction, just follow a sequence of logic. The question of why an elephant's tick is white might pose a little bit more difficult a question than most other questions, and it might take a lot longer to reach an answer to that kind of question. It took us a while to get here. I think there were elephants here at Djuma Waterhole earlier. Franklin, Natal Franklin, the buffalo. I'm looking for elephants. Smell them. Okay. Copy. Please repeat the name again. Oh, Mary. There we go. Mary's gonna quiz me tomorrow. Okay, Mary. I will try and do my homework this time.
I'll chase you, Mark. Make sure you do.
But I'm gonna take my books all the way back to Manileti. Right, I'll try and just use Google. I'll try and find answers just on Google without my books. Or just take the necessary books. Mary says she's going to quiz me tomorrow on the mushroom and the elephant tick. That's fair. That's fair. Speaking of elephants, not the ticks, where did these ellies go? I wonder. Anybody who saw the ellies at Djuma Waterhole, which way did they go? I'm guessing they might have headed off to the north. I wonder if that is dripping. Doesn't look like it's been dripping yet. Southernest frog looks fairly new. And I don't know if those tadpoles are even going to make it to the water. Okay. Meringue. Bush meringue. Meringue. I think we should try it down here. Front of the lodge. Maybe they're there. Old hyena den is just in there. I wonder if the hyena ever moved there. Oh look, why are you out this time of day, scrub hair? Hang on a sec, isn't it the same scrub hair that we saw the other day?
Maybe.
Where did we see that scrub hair? It was out in the middle of the day. Well, not the middle of the day, but it was early in the afternoon.
They seem to be coming out earlier and earlier. Or we just keep disturbing them.
No, it was already in the road. It's got a little bit of a piece missing off of its top of its right ear, I think. No, it's not. Oh well, just changing their habits, I guess. Excuse me, child. Can we come through, please? Easter's not till a few months away. So we know where those elephants went to after the dam. Anybody? Zoomy? Now that we're here. Sorry, Landy. Landy. No word on where those Ellies went. I guess it took me too long to get here to the dam. The trees to talk about. Maybe they're back up to quarantine. There was a slight hint of elephant on the west, or rather the east side of the whole Gary Dam. Oh, look. Yeah, 6. That's quite a clutch, actually. And it's hard to keep up with how many there are because they just move so quickly. There we go, moving into the light. Maybe. I suppose you could say our bush chicken, the francolins, they are kind of like equivalent of wild chickens, or just partridges and birds. These are fairly new little chicks, they're only a few days old. Only one with, I think that's mom. I'm not seeing spurs on the back of her legs. Just the one chick with mom, the others must be with dad, and she'll probably call them to join up. That's mom. Chicks are still very fluffy, they're quite fresh. They well before the sell-by date. Interesting helicopter coming over. That's probably an anti-poaching helicopter. And there comes dad with the rest of the chicks. Francolin are also known as, some of the francolin species are also known as spur fowl. And that's on account of the fact that the males have these very large spurs, much like roosters do. Very large spurs on the legs, the lower leg. I don't want to push them, I don't want to spread them, I don't want to separate them, but it would be nice to get a glimpse of them. She's been dust bathing. There we go, I'm going to maybe move up the road now, we'll get a better glimpse of all of them. 2, 4, 5. I'm only seeing 5 now. There's number 6. Running out. Oh, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Helicopter doing very tight turns because a little bit in west. And now there's a shrike that's alarming for some reason, making them a little nervous. That's how the children learn. The adult finds something and starts pecking at it. Doesn't swallow it, doesn't chew it, it just pecks at it and drops it, pecks it and drops it. And in that process makes a lot of noise to attract the attention of the chicks so that they can actually come and see what it is that the adult is actually picking up and dropping. And that's how the chicks learn what food is. Because the adults make a big fuss over it, and then of course it's the first one that grabs it out of the little bunch or the clutch, the first one to grab something that gets to learn how tasty it is, and then sort of another notch in its belt, it knows what that was, to catch it again if it sees it itself. The most on the adults finding food for them, and it's quite hard for the adults because ordinary, they're just finding food for themselves is a mission in its own. But now they've got to find a lot of food and eat that whole brood. Why are you shouting, Sister Killer? You're upsetting baby Frankie. But I've got to come past you, children. Excuse me. Mum has gone off with most of the chicks. This is the male that's still in the road. I just want him. There we go. Off he goes. And no, it's back in the road. Come on, take them off into the bush. There we go. And then I can go past and you can all get back together again. Bye bye, children. Very muffled sounds on the radio about some cheetah that they found up on Buffelshoek. Unfortunately the sun doesn't let me listen to most of it, but I did hear moving north, and if they're in Buffelshoek and they're moving north, they're moving away from us. Hello Mauricia in Texas. Are there any wild birds in Africa that lay eggs on a daily basis like chickens do? No. We're talking genetic modification. No, this is not genetically modified chickens. These are genetically manipulated chickens. The laying hens, things like Rhode Island Reds, what we have are the cooks, the black and white, so they're almost like a reverse guinea fowl. Egg-laying hens, that domestic fowl that humans have produced, that's genetic modification. That's or genetically manipulated. It's still GM. Talk about GM crops. Our eggs come from genetically manipulated fowl that are fed special foods to enhance their egg production, that they're able to lay an egg every day. But it goes against the very essence of survival and nature and everything else, because how could they possibly have any chicks survive if those were to be fertile and those chicks were to be hatching different size, different age chicks every single day? It would be, well, it would provide a lot of food for a lot of other things, but it just would be just viable, it wouldn't be practical. So as far as I know, no, there are no birds that lay an egg every day like domestic chickens do. Elephant we're here, feeding. Might be catching up with them finally. Well, that wasn't very recent. The leaves were already curling. The leaves that had been pulled off of the tree had fallen on the ground. The edges were curling. They've been here most of the day. So I don't know if it was the same group of ellies. Maybe a different one. We're here. No tracks in the road. Other than old hyena tracks. go. I haven't used in a very long time, so I think I'm going to do it now. I do recall there was a very deep, I haven't used this for maybe 4 years, this little shortcut, this little road, but I do recall there was quite a deep little gully here that I don't want to fall into. And a couple of years of flooding might have changed things a bit. There's always been this lovely little wallow here, grassy wallow. I've actually seen elephants playing in there, even if it is very small. As you can see, not a very well traveled little track this. I think this is actually called Ephraim's shortcut. Ephraim, who's now working up at Cheetah Plains, used to be here at Djuma for many years. Great guide, great character, good man. This is Ephraim's shortcut. Almost non-existent. Very tall panicum grasses that we're driving through now. Panicum maximum, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. Quite a palatable grass that hasn't been utilized in this part before very much at all. What did I see? Push my book box against the rattling door. Rattling door needs a little bit of weather seal or just a stick. Let's need to get a stick. Are you picking up the rattling? Well, it's just keeping you all awake, I guess. A little bit of a rattling. It's an old road that hasn't been driven, so it is a little bit bumpy. Bumpy. I'm feeling bumpy. Doo-doo-doo-doo. This is probably even worse after all these years of heavy rain. The amount of times we were here with Mishu and Djuma and Kills and sleeping and playing, and they loved this little drainage line, those two boys. Two of Karula's cubs from her second litter, Mishu and Djuma. Dawn and Chief. Quite a grotesque kill they had one day right here. Ended up, in fact, Karula and her boys, she killed a female impala, and we actually watched as Djuma shot the carcass. Another road we're going to drive very often. It's nice to just venture on it again after not being here for some time, number of years in fact. Basically what I've been doing is doing a zigzag, crisscrossing the drainage line north of Gowrie Dam, looking for signs of those elephants that might have been there earlier. I wasn't too sure, I think there was some elephant there earlier. I was hoping to find them. I think it might have taken us a little too long to get here, but we're there. No, we're not here anymore, we're there. We're on the fire break. Purple's a cut line just ahead of us, or north of us. There isn't really anywhere close enough that is west facing, because all the sundowner spots are Cheetah Cutline, Drakensberg. Not really much good on this ridge. Well, unfortunately, no cats around. We see tracks in different places, but they seem fruitful. Few tracks that have been followed well off of the property. And, haven't we heard any sightings of leopard? I might be wrong. Might have found leopard on one of the others, but it doesn't sound like it. It was one of those days when leopard was just available. Just unavailable. Not online. Families around. Pity I couldn't tell you at Djuma Gowrie Dam earlier. I never used to be too bad. Only the trip down this bad. But here was always good. Different tracks here. It could be those ellies that were at the dam that might have come. Quite often they leave the dam and they head sort of in this sort of easterly direction, and they come through this bush where we experienced Karula and the cub and the whole issue, and a day that we followed quarantine male into this block. But elephants do tend to come through here and then head north from here up towards Tambuti Camp. That could be in which way they went. One of those things about trying to find them after they've been somewhere is if you don't find their initial tracks to see which way they headed, then it's all about guesswork really. And now I've seen some tracks on the road heading north. Could have been them. More day. A little bit late for a makes it look so far away and so small. There we go, look at that. As we head towards Djuma Waterhole, Gowrie Dam. Kind of late for a plane like that to be flying. You can only fly visual here. There's no way to pick up instrumentation or anything. So you're not flying on IFR. You're flying on VFR. So it should be. It's flying straight over towards Kruger. Hello, Buffalo. Good night, buffalo. They're flying straight east into Kruger almost. Very strange. Maybe going to Mozambique. That's quite possible. Heading down over to Mozambique to the coast. Let me try and get a bit more level so you don't have to move the camera. You have already. Beautiful textures. This buffalo that's moving towards us. I don't think he could move any slower if he wanted to. Directly over his back is the camera in the background, that little white spot in the tree that just disappeared. There, that little white spot. The top right, middle right, or rather center, the top. It was a little strange. I've never seen that before. I wonder if he's battling for some reason with something. Something's a little bit off. Something's just not right. The way he's moving. Hello, old man, old men, old boys. Gentlemen's club. Meeting for an evening wallow. Hello camera, if you're looking at us. But it seems there was a troop of baboons that came to visit and they stayed a day or two and then they decided that the grass over here wasn't really that much greener. I guess. Doesn't look like they stuck around much. Elephant! An elephant in the day. How appropriate. Couldn't get more. Since I went looking for him everywhere else but here, it would be, are you coming to chase me, boyki? Hello, man. Oh, you're beautiful. And you're must. Hello, man. Jumbo Buena. You would ask. It's so amazing. What a magnificent ellie. Look how white the tip of his tusks are compared to the rest of the tusks. He's really been polishing them, using them for tearing vegetation or something. I mean, he's not too concerned about the base of the tusk, but he's definitely proud of the tips because they're pure white. And I think we need to just move, manipulate our camera, just get around this termite mound so we can see him in the best possible light. A magnificent bull elephant to end our day. Thank you for being patient with me, everybody. We've had a fantastic drive this afternoon and it's been great talking about trees and flowers and things, and I'm sorry we haven't really come across that much, but this is exactly where we started today with the two dead marulas. They're the two marulas just behind him that we started the whole day with. How ironic is that we've been talking about elephants and marulas, and to end the day we come back to virtually the same place that we started with the two big green marulas to the left, but we're not going to look at them now, but also just those two ringbark marulas right behind him now. And I don't think it could be more fitting. I don't think we could have choreographed it better.
Yeah, we're about 20 meters from where we started.
Yeah, it's uncanny. It's almost as though he was listening all along throughout the afternoon. And it was not 10 minutes, it's 20 minutes. Till darkness do us part. You're not going to be able to use light on this boy, and you're just going to have to use our fading daylight. But look at this magnificent tusker. He's a mammoth. He's fantastic. But don't move so much, Mr. Ellie, then I can't take photos. The fading light is lowering my shutter speed exponentially. Try how good it gets. Jambo bwana, rafiki yangu, habari gani? Mzuri sana. I don't think he's quite as tall as the big boy we had this morning. He's also he's a bulky, it's almost like a bodybuilder. This boy, his elbow is much wider than my shoulders. Hello, Mr. Ellie. Very strong scent of his musk smell now wafting over us. He very clearly in full must, and well, despite this fact that it does cause heightened testosterone levels and to some extent heightened aggression, it's important to behave properly with these chaps and be very respectful. We're now almost at exactly the place where we started our drive today. If you took a photo of me today starting the drive, this is almost exactly where it was, so that we can see these two green marulas over here, and then just behind him over there are the two, just that one, this is the crown of that one, and then just in the background above his head is the other dead marula. So this is where we started drive. Probably one of the first times ever that I've had such a circle, such an incredible circle of a story, because the whole story about today started with these marulas and why a couple of them are dead, and then seeing how elephants have fed on them, especially this morning with that pushed over marula, and seeing how the family were feeding on the branches. But we've seen a whole life story, a whole circle of a vital link in the whole future, a vital sort of ring of life that is playing out at the moment. The elephants and the marula trees. And you find we could probably do an entire day just talking about elephants and mapani trees and elephants and baobabs, or elephants and the teak. So for each tree, the way they utilize each tree is different, and there are different reasons, or there are different consequences to the way they use different trees. And that in itself creates so many different stories that tie elephants to trees in such an intricate way that neither can do without the other. And that's why we've got to make sure that both of them live forever. So I think it's quite amazing. Such a magnificent bull to end our day. Let's use our gravity drive engine, and gravity's not working. Push. Okay, I'll have to start the gasoline engine to get the gravity drive working. There we go. Of course, it has to be in neutral for it to work. It can't work in gear. Sometimes elephants don't like gravity drive because they're accustomed to the sound of the tires crunching and the engine moving at the same time. And sometimes just the sound of tires crunching on gravel without the engine can be a little disconcerting. But we shall see. And I'm probably going to do it again this evening. I did it this morning. I don't know how much time we got, but I think we'll stay with it. Look at just a lovely gap through this acacia, and all you can see is that gorgeous white tusk. Now it's not 3 minutes, 8 minutes left. Jambo bwana. He's gonna take a bit of a nap, resting the trunk on the tusk. Still got a clump of grass in his mouth. And trunk up. I think he's listening. He's also surreptitiously smelling. And now something's maybe made contact with other elephant, because suddenly he's on the mission. He's picking up the scent of something. No. Don't know what it is that he was after. Really? Oh, okay.
But we're running out of time.
So I don't have to look at me to sign off. We can look at him to sign off. People have seen enough. No, people have seen enough of my ugly mug. Rather show the elephant and say goodbye with an elephant. Well, I'm getting word that it's time to log off and time to say goodbye, folks. It's been a wonderful afternoon. It's been interesting, to say the least, and a pretty fitting ending with the end of an elephant to say goodbye. A magnificent bull. Thank you wherever you are on the planet. Thank you very much for joining us, for being a part of our show, for being a part of Wild Earth and the Nat Geo Wild Safari Live. Do join us again tomorrow, first thing in the morning, 6 o'clock Central African time. Scott will be here. I'm thinking that we might get Jigger back tomorrow, so there's a good possibility that for the weekend we might be back to the 2-vehicle syndrome, or scenario rather. And so I'm going to be following up on that. Scott's been doing a pretty good job of that today, following up on what's happening with the Jigger while we've been here, and it sounds like things might be moving along quite fine. So until tomorrow, my name is Mark. We have Brian that's been on camera, and Vim in final control. Take care, goodbye. You've got this wonderful big bull. We can leave you to the Djuma waterhole cam. He's coming in from the west, so whoever's doing the zooming at the moment, if you can swivel the camera back this way, he is coming in towards the dam. Let's see,